Hello again, I'm Ian Masters, and this is the Daily Briefing. And we're on campus here at UCLA, where there is a lot of activity. There's also activity on the Cal State campuses, and we're joined by a group of students here from Cal State Los Angeles, and a larger group, of course, from Cal State Fullerton. And let me begin with Andrew Franklin, who is the Legislative Affairs Representative of the Association of Students at Cal State Los Angeles. Andrew, you put on a bake sale, I take it, to try and rescue the finances of the Cal State system. Cookies were, what, $4,000 a piece? Did you get any takers?
Yeah, we sold baked goods. Their cookies were about $300 to $400. They weren't, they were in comparison to the large cakes, which went for around $4,026, which actually equals the tuition for this current academic year.
So give us a sense of what's happening on your campus at Cal State LA. Is it we're here at UCLA, where there have been sit-ins in Murphy Hall. It's not an occupation. There's no bloodletting. There's no tear gas, but there are obviously statements being made. What's happening on your campus?
Yeah, at Cal State LA, I mean, we're involved in it as much as the UCs and the community colleges. Today, for example, we had our walk out of classes. It started at 9 in the morning. Students went around and tried to rally up those students that were still in the classes, and a lot of the faculty did support it. We then had rallies and stuff like that on campus, and then everyone moved to Pershing Square. And they're actually all of my classmates and peers are actually down in downtown LA right now, and they're actually marching to the Reagan State Building. And they're going to continue the
appropriately named Reagan State Building.
Yes, exactly, yes.
Let me turn to Gustavo Duhamel and Jose Rosales and Ali Medikius, all of Cal State Fullerton. You guys actually, in terms of activism, you're a little more active. I'm not suggesting that what's happening on this campus is in any way deficient, but you actually took over a building. And so describe what happened, Gustavo.
Well, so we, at least in terms of the strict logistics of it, we walked over. Well,
not so much the logistics, what the intention and why that, because I understand you chose the Humanities Building because your chancellor said that the arts are irrelevant.
Well, it wasn't the president of the university who said that. It's the university director of planning who is laying out the sort of rationale and logic for a restructuring of our university over the next 5 years. And so he set out to evaluate what departments in the university are necessary versus merely desirable and esoteric. And the departments and colleges that he labels esoteric and merely desirable are the fine arts and humanities. So what it seems like they're going to try to do, given this memo that was leaked from a president's strategic planning meeting in January, is restructure our university so that it becomes a University of Phoenix, which the memo cites as being the model university for the CSU system in the next 5 years.
So in other words, they just want you as corporate cookie cutters. They want to turn out. They don't want to give you any kind of broad education as a human being, but more as somebody to feed the corporate machine.
Right. They call in this memo, they call the university the producer and the students consumers, and talk about students as human capital and as customers who are merely there to purchase the university product. And that product, the product that's offered the customers or the students, fluctuates with the demands of the global economy and the IMF. And he cites all kinds of different global economic institutions.
So, Ali, now that we've gotten the reasons why you did it, tell us briefly what happened.
Well, we all kind of we took over the building. We walked in. There was about 30 of us, and we barricaded ourselves into the building, but the police got there kind of as we were getting in, so we lost chance. So there was about 20 of us inside the building, and we held it down for about 4 or 5 hours. Got let out around 7.
And since you're here today, is your Cal State Fullerton students also going to Pershing Square, or how are they going to tie into that? Obviously, you're attempting to educate the public at large, right?
Yeah, well, there were a lot of there wasn't a big riot at our school. There was a lot of protesting going on at our school today. A lot of the fire alarms were pulled. There were about like 400, 500 people out in the quad. And now I know there were buses taking students from our school to Pershing Square. Before today, we were putting up flyers a lot with quotes from Parker and just letting
Parker being this
the
guy that
yeah.
his memo suggested that the arts were, what was the word you used?
Esoteric.
Esoteric.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a quote right here.
Oh, you read it. This is Jose
Yes.
Rosales.
So this is straight from the document. It says more esoteric offerings such as literature, philosophy, fine arts, and so forth will only be justified in the minds of the public as they are clearly related to practical concerns. The fact that these are traditional parts of comprehensive universities is no longer a strong enough argument to the public. So that's basically the
Well,
point.
you know, I was talking to a minute ago here with Catherine King, who's been here teaching at UCF for 31 years, and we were talking about the idea that what seems to be happening to education, and certainly under Bush with No Child Left Behind, and unfortunately the Obama administration has to some extent kept these components with its Race to the Top program, where they're diverting money away from public education into these charter schools, which will cream off the smarter kids, and they'll dump the rest in these failing public schools. It's the same as vouchers. I mean, it's a counterintuitive idea that you improve education by taking money away from the main foundation of education and give it off to these other entities. And apparently what's driving a lot of this is that people like Elo Brown, who likes to put his name on all these buildings, and Bill Gates are giving tons of money to train people to make education more businesslike. So there's this presumption in our culture that just because you've made $1 million or $1 billion, you are therefore smarter than everybody else and you know more than everybody else.
This directly ties into what Gustavo was saying about the conception of students as human capital. And if people ask you, oh, why are you occupying and such questions, you have to consider the question, well, isn't the building already occupied? Who is taking over this building prior to the students? And you have to say the people who have money, the people who have power. So when students occupy a building, it's actually a reclamation. It's a taking back of education for the students for educational purposes and not for business and capital.
Just in closing, we were talking earlier with Catherine King that there is a political focus in a way, since everybody seems to agree, and let me ask you guys, do you recognize the malicious role that Proposition 13 has played in all of this, the undoing of one of the world's greatest education systems? That was the beginning. And now George Lakoff up at UC Berkeley has come up with a very simple plan to put on the ballot California for Democracy, the California Majority Rule, which is a simple change where we actually operate on the traditional democracy, which is 50% plus one vote. That's how it's always been. That's majority rule. So do you see what you're doing now leading to that kind of activism and the need for a political follow-on, if you will? But this is, I take it you don't think this is just a one-off thing that you're doing today?
No, it's not.
This is Gustavo speaking.
Yeah, it's not a one-off thing because we aren't simply concerned with we're not simply concerned with just having one demand met or two demands met, that they lower tuition or that they slow down the corporatization of the university, I think. And we're also not trying to go back to some ideal model of the university, something that was promised to us years ago that's not being kept up on. I think for a lot of students right now, what's at stake is a sort of reevaluation of the university and how we can generalize it a bit more and sort of communize the university so that it's accessible in the way that it has never been and has not been up till now.
Well, I thank all of you for joining us here on the campus of the University of California in Los Angeles, where you may have been hearing some background noise of the demonstrations that are going on here today. Again, I've had Andrew Franklin from Cal State Los Angeles. He's the Legislative Affairs representative for the Associated Students of Cal State Los Angeles. And then Gustavo Duhamel of Cal State Fullerton, along with Jose Rosales and Ali Medikias. I'm sorry, Ali. Well, I thank all of you for joining us here and for what you're doing here in this National Day of Protest.